I never thought I'd see hope again after losing my wife and struggling alone to raise my daughter, Lily. But one rainy evening on a crowded bus, I noticed a woman quietly crying, and something about her pain mirrored my own. Little did I know that fleeting encounter would change both our lives forever. Have you ever believed that a single moment could rewrite your entire future? If yes, like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. The rain had been falling since dawn, a thin gray curtain that matched my mood. By the time I left the loading dock that evening, my jacket was soaked through, my boots heavy with mud. "Daddy, can we go home now?" Lily's small voice reached up to me as she held my hand. "Yeah, sweetheart, we're going home," I murmured, squeezing her fingers. I tried to smile, but my face felt stiff. The bus hissed to a stop in front of us. I lifted Lily up the first step and fumbled for the fare with damp fingers. We sat near the back, close enough to feel the heat from the vent, but far from the noisy teenagers in front. I wiped rain off my forehead with my sleeve. The smell of wet wool, diesel, and old vinyl filled my nose. I shifted on the cracked seat, my knees aching after a 10-hour shift. Lily leaned against me, her damp hair sticking to my arm. "Are we going to have soup tonight?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "We've got a little left from yesterday." She nodded, satisfied. I hated that she never asked for anything more. 6-year-olds should beg for pizza, not quietly accept leftovers. As the bus rumbled forward, I stared at the dark window and saw my own reflection. Hollow eyes, unshaven chin. I used to look like a man with plans. Now I just look like a man trying to get through the week. I never thought I'd be here. A widowed single dad, riding a late bus through the rain, counting coins in my pocket. 2 years ago, we had a tiny but warm house, a garden my wife loved, and dreams of a better future. The night of the accident plays in my head sometimes. The ringing phone, the flashing lights, the hospital hallway. I push it away now. I can't break in front of Lily. She stirred beside me. "Daddy," she whispered, "do you miss Mommy?" Her question hit me like a punch to the ribs. I cleared my throat. "Every day," I said softly. She was quiet for a moment, then rested her head on my arm. "I miss her too, but I'm glad I still have you." I swallowed hard and brushed a damp strand of hair from her forehead. "I'm the lucky one, Lily. I've got you." The bus hit a pothole and jolted. Across the aisle, a movement caught my eye. A young woman, maybe around my age, sitting hunched forward. Her long brown hair hid most of her face, but I saw her shoulders shake. She had her hands pressed over her mouth as if trying to hide her crying. I tried not to stare. Everyone carries their own burdens. Still, something about the way she clutched a small, scuffed suitcase at her feet stirred a strange unease in me, like she had nowhere to go. I forced myself to look away, focusing instead on the fog window. Bills were due. Rent was late again. Tomorrow's shift would be another grind. I didn't have room for other people's troubles. But my thoughts kept drifting back to her. Lily shifted again, peeking across the aisle. "Daddy, why is that lady sad?" she whispered. "I don't know," I said quietly. "Maybe she's just having a hard day." Lily's eyes lingered on the woman with a kind of innocent worry that twisted something inside me. I remember my wife telling me once, "Don't lose your kindness just because the world gets hard." Had I lost mine? The bus jolted again, and a streetlight flashed across the woman's face. I saw the glint of tears on her cheeks before she turned toward the window. I looked down at Lily, who had curled up against me, fighting sleep. I brushed my thumb over her small hand and thought about all the nights I'd promised myself to be strong for her, even when I felt like I was crumbling inside. The woman across the aisle sniffled and wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. No one else seemed to notice. I told myself it wasn't my business. But as the bus rattled over bridge, I found my gaze returning to her reflection in the window. Who was she running from? Or toward? The driver announced the next stop. I tightened my grip on Lily's hand, ready to step off into the rain again. I kept my eyes on the stranger just a moment longer. I didn't know why. Maybe it was the way she looked so small, so breakable. Maybe it was because I knew too well what it felt like to sit on a bus and try not to fall apart. I shifted my daughter gently on my lap, and let my thoughts linger on the woman as the rain streaked down the glass. I couldn't explain it then, but something in me wanted to know her story. The bus rumbled into the next dark stretch of road, and I found myself wondering about her tears, unaware that this brief, rain-soaked night would change everything for both of us. I couldn't stop staring at her reflection in the rain-streaked window as the bus rattled on. Her shoulders shook again, barely noticeable to anyone else, but I caught it. I shifted Lily gently off my lap and whispered, "Stay here for a second, sweetheart." She blinked sleepily. "Where are you going?" "Nowhere. Just hold on." I fished a crumpled napkin from my jacket pocket, the one I'd used to wipe Lily's chin after dinner. It was all I had. I leaned slightly across the aisle. "Here," I said quietly. "You can use this." The woman turned just enough for me to see her red-rimmed eyes. She hesitated, then took the napkin with trembling fingers. "Thank you," she whispered, voice hoarse, almost breaking on the last syllable. I nodded, unsure what else to say. I felt Lily's gaze on me, then on the woman. My daughter sat up straighter, her curiosity plain. "Are you okay, lady?" Lily asked softly. The woman's lips twitched, almost a smile, but her eyes shone wet again. I'll be fine," she murmured, brushing at her cheek with the napkin. I noticed how she gripped the handle of the small, worn suitcase at her feet, as if it were her last possession. Her hands trembled even as she tried to hold still. I shifted back in my seat, staring down at my calloused palms. Why do I care? I told myself. I've got my own mess. I can't fix a stranger's life. But the sound of her sniffle, quiet and quick as she turned her face toward the window, lingered in the humid air of the bus. Lily tugged at my sleeve. "Daddy, maybe she's sad 'cause she lost her mommy too." I looked at my daughter, her wide eyes full of innocent concern, and felt my throat tighten. "Maybe," I said quietly. "Some people just go through tough times." The woman's shoulders hunched as if she'd heard us, though she didn't look back. I thought about asking if she needed help, but the word stuck. I'd built walls around myself these last 2 years, afraid that opening up to anyone else would break me further. The bus jolted over a pothole, throwing us all slightly forward. I reached to steady Lily, then glanced at the woman again. Her knuckles had gone white around the suitcase handle. I almost spoke. I opened my mouth, but the bus screeched to a stop at the next corner. She sprang up before I could say anything, clutching the suitcase like a lifeline. "Excuse me," she murmured, edging past another passenger. I shifted my knees to let her through. She never looked back. Her boots splashed into puddles as she stepped off into the rainy night. The door hissed shut behind her, and the bus lurched forward again. I stared at the empty seat across the aisle for a long time. Lily leaned her head against my shoulder. "Daddy, you think she has somewhere warm to go?" "I hope so," I said, though the knot in my chest told me I wasn't sure. At home, I changed Lily into dry pajamas, reheated the leftover soup, and sat across from her at our small kitchen table. She stirred her spoon quietly. "Daddy," she said at last. She looked really lonely. I forced a smile. "Some people are just having a bad night, Lily." She shook her head slightly. It felt like more than that. I didn't answer. Instead, I tucked her into bed, brushed her damp hair back from her forehead, and kissed her goodnight. Hours later, I lay in the dark, staring at the cracked ceiling. The sound of distant traffic hummed through the thin apartment walls. Rain still tapped softly against the window. I told myself to sleep. Tomorrow was another long day at the dock. But each time I closed my eyes, I saw that woman's hunched shoulders, the way her fingers trembled around the suitcase, the way her voice cracked when she said, "Thank you." Why does it stick with me? I thought, people cry on buses every day. I've got enough of my own sorrow. I don't have space for hers. Still, the image wouldn't fade. I turned over, pulled the blanket tighter, and listened to Lily's soft breathing from her room. Eventually, my thoughts slowed. The bus ride, the rain, the stranger's quiet tears all swirled together as I drifted toward uneasy sleep, unaware that I'd see her again. I woke up with the sound of rain dripping from the gutter outside the bedroom window. Lily was already humming to herself as she tied her shoelaces. Daddy, you're slow today, she teased. Yeah, I muttered, rubbing my eyes. Long night. As we left the apartment and stepped into the damp morning air, I couldn't shake the image of the crying woman on the bus. I told myself it was just curiosity. Still, as we walked toward Lily's school, I caught myself scanning the sidewalks. After I waved Lily off at the school gate, I turned to head for the dockyard. That's when I saw her, sitting on a park bench a few yards away, shoulders slumped, the same small suitcase by her feet. I stopped. My first instinct was to keep walking. It wasn't my business. I'd barely spoken to her last night, but something about the way she sat there, like the world had quietly pushed her aside, kept my feet rooted. I drew a slow breath and walked over. Hey, I said gently. We met on the bus last night. Her head snapped up, startled. For a moment, her eyes flashed with wariness, like a cornered stray. Then her gaze softened in recognition. Oh, it's you, she said, her voice low. I shifted awkwardly, stuffing my hands in my jacket pockets. Didn't mean to bother you. Just saw you sitting here. She looked down at the suitcase. I was just thinking. The silence between us stretched. I could hear the distant shouts of kids on the playground, the squawk of a crow on a lamppost. I cleared my throat. I'm Sam, I said. And you? She hesitated, then said quietly, Emma. The name hung in the cool morning air, simple and unadorned. Are you new around here? I asked. Yeah. She rubbed her fingers together, as if to warm them. Came a few weeks ago, looking for work. I nodded slowly. I didn't ask for more, though I wanted to. Her guarded expression told me enough. There were things she wasn't ready to share. A small voice piped up behind me. Daddy? Who's that? I turned to see Lily running up from the school gate, holding a crumpled napkin in one hand and a half-eaten cookie I'd packed in her lunchbox in the other. Lily, you're supposed to be in class, I said, though I couldn't help but smile. Teacher's still talking to the other kids, she said. Then she looked at Emma. You were on the bus last night. Emma managed a faint, polite smile. Yeah, that was me. Lily studied her for a moment, then held out the cookie. You look hungry. Emma's eyes widened slightly, as if she hadn't expected kindness from a stranger, let alone a child. Her lips curved into a small, almost reluctant smile. Thank you, she said softly, accepting the cookie. I felt a strange warmth in my chest watching that tiny exchange. Lily had done in seconds what I hadn't managed. She'd broken through the wall around Emma. Lily leaned against me. Are you okay now? She asked Emma. Emma glanced at her, then at me, as if unsure how much to reveal. I'll be fine, she said after a pause. Just figuring things out. I wanted to ask what brought her here, why she looked like she slept in bus stations for a week. But I bit my tongue. I'd spent enough nights keeping my own pain private to respect someone else's silence. Listen, I said, shifting my weight. If you need directions or anything, this isn't the easiest town to land in. She shook her head quickly. I'll manage. Really. But thank you. Her tone was polite, but there was a finality to it. The conversation was over. I nodded, tightening my grip on Lily's shoulder. All right. Take care, Emma. As I turned to walk Lily back to the school gate, I caught one last glimpse of Emma sitting there, nibbling the cookie with that faint, fleeting smile still lingering. It was the first trace of softness I'd seen in her. That afternoon, as I clocked out at the dock, clouds gathered again. By evening, the sky opened, rain slanting down hard and cold. On my way home, I took the long route past corner store to pick up bread. That's when I saw her again, huddled under the narrow awning of a closed shop, the same small suitcase at her feet, rain dripping off her hair and shoulders. I slowed, my heart tightening. Why is she still out here? I thought, where is she supposed to go in this storm? I hesitated for just a moment longer before stepping toward her. The rain came down in sheets, bouncing off the pavement, running in tiny rivers toward the gutter. Emma sat huddled beneath the shop's awning, her hair plastered to her face, that same battered suitcase at her feet. I stepped closer, pulling my jacket tighter. You'll get sick sitting there, I said. My voice came out rougher than I meant. She looked up, startled, then quickly looked away. "I'm fine," she muttered. Her lips were trembling. "No, you're not." I glanced at the storm. "There's a shelter a few blocks from here. Come on, I can drive you." She hesitated, hugging her arms to her chest as if to hold herself together. Finally, she nodded. I led her to the car, helped her wrestle the suitcase into the back seat. She kept her eyes down the whole time. The wipers squeaked across the windshield as we pulled into the wet street. Neither of us spoke for a while. I gripped the wheel, feeling awkwardly responsible for the stranger in my passenger seat. The rain hammered the roof like impatient fingers. At the shelter, a volunteer in a yellow raincoat shook his head. "Full up. Sorry. Storm brought in a lot of folks tonight." I saw Emma's shoulders slump just slightly. She didn't argue. She just murmured, "Thanks anyway," and turned to go back into the rain. "Wait," I said. The word surprised even me. "You can wait at my place until it lets up. It's nothing fancy. Just dry." She turned back, eyes cautious. "I don't want to impose." "It's just until the rain stops," I said. "That's all." After a long moment, she nodded. Lily was curled up on the couch when we got home, coloring in one of her old sketch pads. Her eyes widened as she saw Emma behind me. "Hi again," Lily said brightly. "You're wet." Emma gave a faint, almost shy smile. "Yeah, guess I am." I handed Emma a clean towel. "You can dry off. Bathroom's down the hall." She murmured quiet thanks and disappeared into the bathroom. I watched the closed door, wondering if I'd just made a mistake, inviting someone I barely knew into the small space that was the only safe corner left in my world. Lily tugged at my sleeve. "Daddy," she looked sad again. I crouched beside her. "She's had a rough night. Be nice, okay?" "I am nice," Lily said, a little indignant. Then she added softly, "Maybe she just needs someone to talk to." Emma returned a few minutes later, still damp but looking less chilled. She perched on the edge of the couch as if afraid to take up too much space. "Would you like some tea?" I asked. "It's not fancy." She shook her head. "No, thank you. I'm fine." Lily held up her sketch pad. "Want to see my drawings?" Emma blinked, then nodded slowly. "Sure." Lily scooted closer, flipping through pages of stick figure families, flowers, and stars. "This one's my favorite," she said, pointing to a drawing of a tall man holding a little girl's hand. "That's me and Daddy." Emma's smile deepened, soft and real this time. "It's beautiful." I watched the exchange in silence, something loosening in my chest. The room still smelled faintly of rain and damp wool, but it felt a little warmer. After Lily went to bed, Emma stood near the window, watching the rain. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You don't have to tell me anything," I said quietly. "But do you have a place to stay?" She shook her head. "I'll figure something out." "I always do." Her words carried a tired defiance, as if daring the world to challenge her. I recognized that tone. I'd used it myself too many nights after my wife died. I almost asked more but stopped. I knew that look in her eyes, a door not ready to be opened. We stood there in the soft hush of falling rain, two strangers bound by unspoken grief. Finally, she said, "Thank you for letting me wait here." I nodded. "No need to thank me." The rain eased to a drizzle near midnight. Emma picked up her suitcase, pausing at the door. "I'll be okay," she said quietly. "Yeah," I replied, though I wasn't sure I believed it. She slipped out into the damp night, leaving the faint scent of rain and tea behind. Lily's sleepy voice drifted from her bedroom as I tucked her in again. "Daddy, I hope the lady finds a warm home." Her words lingered in the dark like a quiet reproach. I lay awake long after, listening to the soft drip of water from the eaves, wondering why letting Emma go felt so wrong. Lily's sleepy words from that night still echoed in my mind all week. I hope the lady finds a warm home. I thought about Emma more than I wanted to admit, even as I ironed my one decent shirt on the morning of the interview. I needed this job. We'd been scraping by for too long. Maybe, finally, I could give Lily more than just enough. "Daddy, you look like you're going to school." Lily giggled as she sat at the breakfast table swinging her legs. "Kind of feels that way." I said, forcing a smile. Wish me luck. You don't need luck, she replied, reaching out to straighten my crooked tie. You're the best. Her faith in me burned like both a comfort and a burden. I kissed her forehead, dropped her off at school, and drove downtown. The office building smelled faintly of fresh paint and coffee. My palms were already sweating as a receptionist led me to the conference room. Mr. Hayes will be with you shortly, she said. I nodded, clutching my resume a little too tightly. My stomach churned. Providing for Lily had become my whole reason to keep going, and this job could change everything. The door opened, and I rose to my feet, only to feel my breath catch. Emma? I blurted out. She stopped in the doorway, just as stunned. Her eyes widened, then quickly masked themselves under professional calm. Mr. Carter, she said evenly, I'll be conducting your interview. For a moment, we simply stared at each other. 1,000 questions flooded my mind. What was she doing here? How did she go from shivering under an awning to running an office? I managed a stiff nod. All right. We sat across from each other. The rain-spattered window behind her made the city outside look like a watercolor painting. I tried to focus as she flipped through my resume. You've been at your current job for 4 years, she said. Why are you leaving? I swallowed. I need something more stable. Better hours. My daughter's growing up fast, and I want to be there for her. Her eyes softened for just a fraction of a second. Understandable. Tell me about a time you had to solve a problem under pressure. We fell into the rhythm of the interview. Her tone was steady, her questions sharp but fair. I noticed the way her hands moved. No tremor like the night on the bus. There was a strength in her voice I hadn't seen before. When the formal questions ended, she leaned back slightly. You handle that well, but this position is competitive. I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. I get that. I'm just hoping for a chance. Her gaze lingered on me, unreadable. You've been carrying a lot on your shoulders. I gave a small, dry laugh. Feels that way sometimes. For a second, the professional mask slipped. Don't give up, she said quietly. Something in her tone, not pity, but conviction, struck deeper than I expected. I wanted to ask about her, about why she'd been out in the rain that night. But I knew this wasn't the time. The receptionist showed me out. I stepped into the crisp afternoon air with my jacket over one arm, my mind tangled. I hadn't gotten the job. She hadn't said it outright, but I could tell. Still, her last words stayed with me, like a hand on my shoulder in the dark. Driving home, I thought of Lily and how I'd tell her. I hated disappointing her. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked older than my 30-some years, the lines of worry deeper than I'd realized. Lily was waiting by the window when I pulled into the driveway. She opened the door before I reached it. How'd it go, Daddy? She asked, hopeful. I forced a small smile. Not great, but I think I made a good impression. She tilted her head. Then maybe they'll call you back. I ruffled her hair. Maybe. Her optimism was a fragile flame. I didn't want to blow it out. That night, as I sat on the couch watching the shadows stretch across the walls, I couldn't shake the image of Emma, the guarded strength in her eyes, the way her voice softened just enough to let a sliver of warmth through. She's not who I thought she was, I admitted to myself. And maybe I'm not as alone in this struggle as I believed. I didn't know why it mattered, but it did. 3 days later, as I was folding Lily's laundry, my phone buzzed. I didn't recognize the number. Hello. I answered. Mr. Carter? The voice on the other end was calm, clear. This is the HR office from Stonebridge. We have an opening for a different position. Ms. Hayes recommended you. Are you available to come in tomorrow? I stood frozen in the middle of the small living room, a shirt half folded in my hands. Yes, I said finally. Yes, I am. When I hung up, I stared at the phone for a long moment. Emma did this. I thought, I owe her something I can't quite name. Lily poked her head around the corner. Who is it? I smiled, a real one this time. Maybe good news. The next morning after the call, I started my new job. Every time I passed Emma in the hallway, I caught myself wondering if she knew what that phone call had meant to me. I didn't say it, though. I just nodded and kept moving, afraid that gratitude might sound like something more. On my second day, during lunch, I overheard her laughing at something Lily had said. I turned to see Lily sitting at the corner table in the break room, legs swinging, coloring on a scrap of printer paper while I finished paperwork. Emma crouched beside her. "So your cat's name is Pancake?" Lily nodded, giggling. "But we don't have a cat yet. I'm just practicing the name." Emma laughed again, not the careful, polite laugh I'd heard before, but something lighter, almost surprised. I realized I'd been staring too long and looked down at my folder. Later that afternoon, as I was putting away some files, Emma passed by my desk. "She's adorable," she said quietly. "Yeah," I said, try not to sound too proud. "Keeps me on my toes." Emma tilted her head slightly. "She has your smile." That caught me off guard. I didn't know how to respond, so I just cleared my throat and went back to stacking papers. I hadn't expected our conversations to start feeling easy. Over the next couple of weeks, little moments kept breaking down the walls I'd built. At the coffee machine one morning, Emma said, "You always take it black." "Milk's too fancy," I joked. "Besides, it keeps me awake." She smirked. "You say that like you've been up all night." I shrugged. "Single dads don't really sleep." Her eyes softened. "I get it." That night, as I buckled Lily into her booster seat, she asked, "Daddy, do you think Emma likes pancakes too?" I chuckled. "Maybe." "Why?" "Because if we ever get Pancake the cat, she could help name his friends." Her innocence had a way of pulling me out of my own head. Driving home, I caught myself smiling, something I hadn't done much in years without forcing it. One late evening, after a long day, I offered Emma a ride. She hesitated at first, then accepted. The sky was painted with fading streaks of orange and violet as we drove in silence. Lily had fallen asleep in the back, her head resting against her little backpack. When we pulled up outside the modest building Emma rented a small room in, we stayed in the car for a while, neither of us rushing to break the quiet. Emma looked at Lily through the rearview mirror. "She's lucky to have you." I shook my head. "Most days I feel like I'm just holding everything together with duct tape." She glanced at me, her voice softer now. "You're still here. That's more than some fathers manage." Something in her words made me want to understand the shadows in her eyes. "Emma," I asked carefully, "were you running from something? That night in the rain?" Her hands tightened in her lap. For a moment, I thought she wouldn't answer. Finally, she said, "Someone who didn't know how to be gentle." I left before it broke me completely. I gripped the steering wheel a little tighter, anger flaring at the thought of anyone hurting her. I wanted to say something. I wouldn't let that happen again, but the words felt too heavy, too soon. Instead, I said quietly, "I'm sorry." She gave a faint, almost wistful smile. "I'm learning to be okay again, one day at a time." We sat there, listening to the soft rhythm of Lily's breathing in the back seat, while the city hummed around us. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the need to fill the silence. There was something healing about simply being there. 3 people, all carrying their own pieces of hurt, yet somehow sharing a small pocket of peace. When Emma finally unbuckled her seatbelt, she said, "Thank you for the ride, and for not asking too many questions." I nodded. "Anytime." She closed the door gently, almost reluctantly, and walked toward the dimly lit entrance of the building. I waited until she disappeared inside before starting the car. On the drive home, I kept glancing at Lily in the rearview mirror. Her little mouth hung open slightly as she dreamed, completely unaware how fragile the world could be. Am I ready for this? I wondered. To open my life to someone again? To trust? I didn't have an answer, but the knot in my chest had loosened just enough for me to breathe. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she mumbled sleepily, "Emma's nice. I like her laugh." I brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. "Yeah, me too." For the first time in years, I fell asleep feeling something close to hope. The feeling lasted 3 whole days. Then an envelope arrived in the mail, the kind that makes your heart stop before you even open it. It was from my late wife's parents. A formal notice. They were filing for partial custody of Lily. As I stood there in the kitchen holding that letter, the fragile balance I'd started to build felt as if it were tilting again, and I didn't know how to keep it from falling. Holding the letter from my late wife's parents felt like a punch straight to the chest. My hands shook as I sat at the kitchen table. Lily perched on the edge, her small fingers tracing the envelope. "Daddy, what is it?" she asked, her voice small. I took a deep breath, forcing my tone calm. "It's something adults have to figure out. But I promise, Lily, we're okay." Her eyes searched mine, full of trust. I hated that she even had to know about this. Over the next few days, the world became a blur of legal forms, phone calls, and anxious nights. Emma appeared at the apartment one evening, carrying a folder stuffed with paperwork. "I can help," she said softly. "Let me?" I wanted to refuse. I wanted to keep her out of this mess. But the way she looked at me, steady, unflinching, made my chest ache with relief. "Okay," I said finally. "Thank you." She sat with me at the table, helping me fill out forms, explain letters, and organize evidence of my life with Lily. Every time I faltered, frustrated by my own exhaustion, she guided me gently. "You've been doing this all along," she reminded me once. "You're the one who gets up every morning for her." Her words stung, in a good way, because I knew she was right. Still, doubt crept in. Am I enough? Am I really her father, or just someone clinging to a role I can't hold? Lily sensed the tension, of course. One afternoon, she tugged at my sleeve while I was working on a decoration. "Daddy, will they let me stay with you?" she asked, her voice trembling. I knelt beside her, brushing her hair from her face. "Yes, baby. I'm not going anywhere. You're my heart, Lily. Always." She threw her arms around my neck, and for a moment, I felt the weight of the world lift just slightly. The courtroom smelled like polished wood and old paper. My stomach churned as I watched my lawyer shuffle papers, my eyes catching Emma in the gallery. Sitting quietly, her hands folded, her gaze unwavering. When my turn came, I stood, hands shaking slightly. I looked at the judge and swallowed hard. "Your Honor," I began, voice rough. "I know I'm not perfect. There are nights I've doubted myself. Days I've wondered if I'm doing enough. But I love my daughter with everything in me. Every choice I make, every hour I work, every sleepless night. It's all for Lily." I glanced at Emma, who gave me a subtle nod of encouragement. Her presence steadied me in a way I didn't know I needed. "I can't promise I never make mistakes," I continued, "but I can promise that I will always put her first. She is my reason, my heart, and my life." The courtroom was quiet, except for the rustle of papers. Lily sat in my lawyer's chair behind me, clutching a small stuffed rabbit. She didn't look scared, just watchful, trusting. After what felt like hours, the judge finally spoke. "Mr. Carter, your devotion is clear. Custody of Lily remains with you. Ensure you continue to provide the stable environment she needs." Relief flooded me, leaving me shaking. I sank into the nearest chair, feeling exhausted in every bone. Emma appeared beside me before I could even move. "You did it," she said softly. Yeah, I whispered. I wanted to laugh, to cry, to yell, but all I could do was breathe in the quiet victory. She didn't say more. She didn't have to. Her quiet presence was enough. On the walk back to the apartment, Lily held my hand tightly, chattering about ice cream and drawing. I tried to respond, but my mind was still tangled in the whirlwind of the day. When we got home, Emma helped me settle Lily into bed, her gentle voice reading a story, her hand brushing Lily's hair back. It was like she belonged here, even though I hadn't yet admitted it to myself. After Lily drifted off to sleep, Emma and I sat on the steps outside the building. The night was clear, stars glimmering faintly above. The air smelled faintly of rain and asphalt. I exhaled slowly, letting the weight of the day sink out of my shoulders. "I don't think I could have done it without you," I admitted. Emma shrugged, though her smile was soft. "You would have, but I'm glad I was here." For the first time in years, I felt peace. Not just relief, but the quiet kind that seeps in when you know you're not carrying the burden alone. I didn't know what the future held, I only knew that for the first time. I couldn't imagine it without her quiet strength beside me. The morning sunlight filtered through the kitchen blinds, painting stripes across the counter. Lily was perched on a stool, stirring pancake batter with serious concentration, flour dusting her nose. Emma stood beside her, gently guiding her hand. "You're getting really good at this," I said, setting down my coffee mug. Lily beamed. "Daddy, Emma says I can be a chef when I grow up." Emma laughed softly. "You could be anything, Lil." I leaned against the counter, watching them. There was a warmth here I hadn't felt in years. Laughter and flour and small, ordinary chaos that felt like home. Later that afternoon, Emma helped Lily with homework at the kitchen table. She was patient, her tone gentle when Lily struggled with spelling words. I lingered nearby, doing my own work, listening to their voices intertwining. "You've been quiet," Emma said suddenly, glancing at me. I hesitated, just thinking. She tilted her head. "About your wife?" The lump in my throat surprised me. I hadn't spoken her name aloud in months, not since the accident. My chest tightened at the memory of her laugh. Her hands warm in mine, the sound of Lily's tiny heartbeat echoing our own in that old living room. I miss her, I admitted finally. Every day. Sometimes it feels like a weight I can't put down. Emma didn't flinch. She simply nodded, her eyes soft but steady. "It's okay to feel that. She's part of you, and part of her lives in Lily." Her words didn't judge. They didn't try to fix anything. They just let me be. And for the first time in a long while, the ache in my chest loosened just a little. That weekend, we went to the park. Lily ran ahead, laughing, swinging her backpack like a cape. Emma and I walked behind, hands brushing occasionally. We didn't need to fill the silence. It was comfortable, familiar, like breathing again after holding it too long. "You know," I said quietly, "I didn't think I'd ever feel normal again. Not after everything." Emma glanced at me, a small, knowing smile on her lips. "Me neither. I didn't think I'd ever trust anyone again. Not after—" She trailed off, her fingers tightening slightly around her own hand. I wanted to reach for her, to tell her she didn't need to explain. "I'm glad you do now," I said softly. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment, the world shrank down to just the two of us. Something unspoken passed between us, fragile, tentative, but real. During the week, our routine settled into a rhythm I hadn't imagined I'd allow myself to enjoy. We cooked together, did homework, laughed over silly cartoons, and sometimes, when Lily was asleep, we'd sit in the living room talking quietly about nothing in particular. One evening, Emma brought out a small sketch pad Lily had left on the coffee table. We flipped through drawings of stick figures, cats, stars, and pancake breakfasts. "She's growing so fast," Emma said, smiling at a page where Lily had drawn all three of us holding hands. I felt a lump in my throat. "I know. I'm trying to make sure she always feels safe. Loved." Emma nodded. "You're doing it. You've built her a world full of love." Her words sank deep, planting themselves in my chest, giving me permission to let some of the emptiness slip away. Later that night, after tucking Lily into bed, I found Emma sitting on the couch with a cup of tea. The room smelled faintly of chamomile and the lingering scent of pancakes. "I never thought I'd feel this," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Safe, comfortable, like I can actually trust someone again." I sank into the chair opposite her. "I feel it too," I admitted. "It's new. Scary sometimes. But good." She met my gaze, and for the first time, I didn't need words to understand. The tension, the caution, the walls we built around ourselves, they were shifting slowly, gently, like the tide pulling back to reveal something solid beneath. I wanted to tell her everything, how I felt, how much I'd missed this, her Lily, life itself. But the words didn't come. Instead, I let the quiet speak, and it did. As I got up to grab my jacket, I glanced back at her, lingering on the curve of her smile and the warmth in her eyes. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe without the weight pressing down. Maybe it's time to let myself feel something again, to tell her what's in my chest. But even as the thought took root, I sensed life wasn't done testing me yet. There was still one more challenge waiting, one that could change everything. I had just finished tucking Lily into bed, her soft breathing filling the room, when my phone buzzed. Emma's name flashed on the screen. My stomach clenched before I even answered. "Emma?" I asked, voice tight. Her voice wavered, urgent. He's here. My ex. He found me. I don't know what to do." I grabbed my jacket and keys, feeling the old familiar surge of protective instinct. Not again. Not ever again. I found her outside her apartment, pacing, eyes wide, hands trembling. The streetlights glinted off the wet pavement, and the shadows seemed longer tonight. "Emma," I said firmly, keeping my tone calm. "You're safe. We'll make sure of it." She shook her head. "I can't. He's dangerous. You're not facing this alone." I extended my hand. "Come with me." Her hand hovered for a heartbeat, then slipped into mine. I felt the tension in her fingers, the fight-or-flight pulse in her wrist. We moved quickly toward my car, rain slick underfoot, headlights cutting through the night. The police arrived shortly after, statements taken, restraining orders filed. Emma's ex was arrested before he could do anything. The relief in her eyes when it was over nearly knocked me off my feet. "You're really something, you know that?" she murmured as we walked back to my car. "I'm just someone who refuses to let my family live in fear again," I said softly. Her lips curved in a small, grateful smile. "I think I've never been protected like this before." I squeezed her hand. "You're not alone anymore." Back at the apartment, Lily was still awake, curled on the couch with her favorite stuffed bunny. Her eyes widened when she saw us. "Everything okay?" she asked, voice cautious but curious. I knelt beside her. "Yes, baby. Everything's okay now." Emma sat down next to me, pulling Lily into her lap. I rested my hand on both of them, feeling the warmth of their small bodies, the steady heartbeat of life I'd fought so hard to protect. The night settled around us. Outside, the city murmured quietly, but inside, the room was full of soft breathing and small, safe sounds. I felt a surge of something I hadn't allowed myself in years. Hope. I looked at Emma, then at Lily, then back at her. "Emma, there's something I need to tell you." Her eyes met mine, curious, attentive, and unafraid. My chest tightened with every word. I almost didn't have the courage to say. "I love you," I said, my voice low, steady. "I've been scared to say it because I didn't want to risk what we have. But I can't hold it back anymore. I love you." For a moment, she just looked at me. Her lips trembled, and tears welled in her eyes. Then she smiled, a real, tearful, honest smile. I've been waiting to hear that," she admitted softly. "I love you too." I exhaled, letting the tension slip out in a slow, shuddering breath. Lily, sensing something, reached up and took both our hands in hers. "Are we a family now?" she asked, wide-eyed. I pulled her close, feeling the weight of every lonely night, every fear, every moment of doubt. "Yes, baby, we're a family." Emma rested her head on my shoulder. "Slowly," she whispered. "We take it slow for her and for us." I nodded. "Slow is fine, as long as we're together." We sat like that for a while, a small triangle of warmth, breathing in the quiet aftermath of storm and fear. The past didn't vanish. It never would, but it no longer held power over us. I glanced out the window. Stars scattered faintly across the sky, their light soft and steady. A long road lay ahead, full of the unknown, but I no longer felt the fear that had haunted me for years. I held Emma's hand, Lily's small fingers still entwined with mine, and felt a fullness in my chest that I had thought impossible. We can build something new, I thought. Not perfect, not easy, but ours. Together. And for the first time in years, I believed in tomorrow.